Eh, iwan mo. Iwan mo yan. Baby. Baby. Ayan. Upo ka. Patingin. Cody, tingnan mo. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Kirsty. I wanted to make a video on home birth and breastfeeding. So I had my third home birth and I've been breastfeeding for 3 years now. And tandem feeding. I'm tandem feeding again. I tandem fed when my last baby was born. So I asked a few questions on my baby done. I asked a few questions on my Instagram about any questions that anyone would have on home birth or breastfeeding. Okay, I'm gonna try to answer answer questions throughout this video. One of the questions that I got is like for a home birth, what do you do in case of an emergency and you're at home? And the answer is, if it's a true emergency, you call an ambulance or go to the hospital. But that's why I always say you need to do a natural birth class. That's what my husband and I did when we were about to have our first baby. Because in the home birth class, you learn things about what would be an emergency in a hospital setting, and it'll be things like when your labor doesn't feel like it's progressing, and different positions to do, or different supplements to take while you're in that position, or also maneuvering and different labor positions to use to ease pain. And then your midwives that you hire will have emergency equipment. They will have emergency equipment, so things like oxygen tank, things for suturing, different medications. And then for us, especially for our third baby, like we're seasoned, it was not our first rodeo, so we also, as the family that lives somewhere that's a little more remote, we have emergency supplies ourselves, like our own oxygen tank, certain antibiotics, pain relief, things like that. So but the midwives you hire will have emergency equipment. I feel like I've answered this before too, and it's like a really simple question, but people will ask me still if it hurt, and it does hurt. I only know unmedicated natural birth pain. I've never been in a hospital setting, like I've never had Pitocin or an epidural, but it does hurt. I will say though, when you're unmedicated, your body has the full range access to oxytocin, which is the happy hormone, which eases pain and helps with the labor process and birth. So you feel the oxytocin, which is really helpful in labor and easing pain, and your body isn't restricted like with medication, because you're able to feel like when to push and those types of sensations. So it does hurt, but oxytocin also helps with pain relief, especially after, because it's the natural high that you feel from giving birth. And I will say, each 3 times I did feel a natural high. It felt amazing. So it does hurt, but it's all relative, and it's not the type of pain that you can't handle. Our bodies, our bodies were made to birth. So it's later in the day now. Sorry for all the hair changes and the noise, but if the hair changes are distracting. But I want to answer another question. Someone asked me the actual logistics of tandem feeding, like what that looks like physically. So I'll hold my newborn on one side, and then my toddler will nurse on the other side. Usually, like if we're in bed, my toddler or my newborn will be laying down, and then I'll be laying down, and then my toddler will have to maneuver over. That's what I did the first time I tandem fed with my older two. Or when I'm sitting up, it's a little bit easier because my toddler could be on the other side. He doesn't have to maneuver and hang over. But they do figure it out. My toddler was 16 months old when my newborn was born, and then my eldest was 20 months old when my second was born. So I was worried about them figuring it out. Towards the end of my pregnancies, I just didn't let them flip-flop constantly on both sides, so that when baby came, they knew, like, okay, I'm going to be mostly on this side. And then that's really important too, just keeping your newborn on one side and your toddler on the other side in the first few weeks, because your colostrum's coming in for your newborn and the milk is different, and your boobs will recognize the saliva of each of your kids. So that's very important. And then also, we were sick, so I didn't want them to share sides yet. And then I got asked how I knew when to wean. I've only weaned one of 3 of my kids so far, and she was 2 years and 4 months. At the time, I think she was ready and I was ready. So she was nursing a little bit less. Like I said, she was tandem feeding, and was tandem feeding for about 8 months at the time. And I just wanted to make sure that she got to past 2 years old, just for like the physiological and health benefits that comes with. So that's all a factor, but it's all relative, and it all depends on you, like what your goals are, how your toddler's handling it, and like even your sleeping arrangements. We co-sleep, so the last thing to be dropped was the night nursing. And another important thing to remember is that you need to be able to sustain yourself and the kids that you're breastfeeding, and that you're having enough calories, enough nutrients, minerals. So just factoring all those things in and figuring out what makes sense for you and your kids. Okay, and then this is the last question I'm going to do, just because these kids are kind of crazy. Gwenny, what's the big mouth? These kids are being crazy. It's almost bedtime. But the last question is, someone asked like how I chose who I want to be there for the birth. And this isn't just exclusive to home births, but birthing is such an intimate, primal, sacred time, and you really want to make sure that you're comfortable with every single person that is there. That's why home birth is more comfortable for me, because I know like the staff that will be there, and then like my own family I chose to be there. So for me, it was just the midwives and then my husband every single time. And then the second time, of course, my daughter was there, my firstborn, and then the third time, my kids were there, but it was just me in the bathroom, in the bathtub, because my husband was with the kids. And the reason why you need to be really selective is because your body won't feel comfortable if you're not comfortable around the people that you're supposed to give birth in front of. So just be really selective about who you tell that you want to be there for actual birth, and then also who you tell that you're in labor, because you don't want like all these questions or people stressing you out. That will slow down your labor too. It really happens. I've seen it happen to other people. So be really selective about who you tell about even your due date, and who you tell when you're in labor, and who you invite to be in your birthing space. So that's one of the upsides to home birth, because you won't have a bunch of random nurses or nursing aides, doctors. Like sometimes you'll have an OB that you've seen regularly throughout your pregnancy, but then they'll be on vacation, or they'll be attending to another birth at the time. So you'll get someone that you haven't met before, and that just feels really impersonal. That's one of the upsides for me for home birth, and getting to choose and really curate your birthing experience and have it be a positive thing. You want people there who support your birthing decisions, your birth plan, and who know how to support. You don't want people to just spectate, because there's no point in that. Like, if there's going to be people there, they have a purpose. They should have a purpose. The first time my husband helped me with labor, and then the second and third times he was with our kids, and that was the purpose he served. And then also the third time my midwives didn't even make it. The first and second time the midwives almost didn't make it. The first time they got there within the last hour. The second time they got there within like 15 to 30 minutes. One came 30 minutes before, the second one came 15 minutes before, or when I was already pushing. And then the third time they came 2 hours after he was born. So just things to consider, and just be ready. And your birthing partner or your birthing team, that's not just your midwives or like the medical team, they should be on board with your plan and know what to do when you're in early labor, active labor, etc.